It looks like we're up and running.
Not quite. Give it just a second.
Okay. We should be recording as well, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was wondering, yeah, if we can't see it. I don't,
I am not seeing a recording button, Heather.
you know.
There you
Now
go.
I do. Okay. So we're ready to go?
Yep.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Tompkins County Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting for October 14th, 2020. Welcome, everyone. And that's the call to order. Privilege of the floor. I don't believe we received any comments for the Development Corporation. I did indicate that we've received comment for the IDA, and I will read that into the record when we get there. There's one item of new business, which is the Development Corporation budget for 2021. And I assume everybody's had a chance to look at that in their packet. Heather, do you have any comment on the budget?
We don't have a lot going on at the Development Corporation. So, it's in your packet. We're not really expecting any projects next year. We do need to adopt a draft budget so that it can go up into Paris, the state's online system, by November 1st.
Okay, any questions or comments from the members of the Development Corporation? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the draft budget? Martha moves and seconds. Okay, any further comments? Are we ready to vote? If so, I will call the roll, and I'll just do it in the order I see people on the screen. Mike? Okay, that's a yes. Martha?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
Jennifer? Yes.
Yes.
And okay, John?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that we've moved through that. I do not have a chair's report for the Development Corporation. And is there a staff report, Heather?
I do not have a staff report.
Okay. I note we have minutes from our meeting of May 13th, 2020. We haven't met in a while. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So
Martha
moved.
moves and seconds. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, I'll run through, put it up for a vote. Mike? Yes, I'm a lip reader now. Martha?
Yes. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yes.
Ann? Okay.
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Any other business to come before the Development Corporation? I would move to adjourn the meeting, and we can do that by a show of hands. I see enough hands. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And I would like to move on to open up the meeting of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency for Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. And welcome, everyone. Our first order of business is privilege of the floor. And I know we've received at least one comment, and I'd like to read it into the record. This is from Teresa Alt, and the subject is Carpenter Park. And the message is, to the Industrial Development Agency, I am both intrigued and puzzled by the set of applications before you from Carpenter Park. Once a single project, now divided among 3 LLCs, all with the same development company and all applications signed by the same Andrew Bodaways. If I pronounced that correctly, I apologize. The Affordable Buildings Carpenter Park Apartments LLC is for sure a good idea and worthy of a pilot. I won't criticize the Carpenter Park Community Medical Center. Welcome back to the city, CMC, exclamation point. What's troubling is Carpenter Park Mixed Use LLC. It's market rate housing with nothing affordable mixed in. Now that the affordable part has become a separate project. So when this applicant refers to the other now separated project as part of the rationale for the $6,667,108 tax abatement package it seeks, and the affordable building is getting a pilot, to me, this sounds like double dipping. Now that the projects are legally separate, this one had better stand on its own. It is now a market rate housing project with no workforce housing in it, so it does not comply with current standards. It does not deserve a tax abatement. As for the green claims, I keep hearing that the kinds of green features the project cites do not really add to the cost when savings in operation are taken into account, and there is not so great a percent of local labor in the plans. So Carpenter Park mixed use does not meet the basic standards for a tax abatement. Don't waste more time on it unless you can require them to add the 20% affordable units that the city and the IDA want. Teresa Alt, 206 Eddy Street, Ithaca. Heather or Ina, are there any other comments that were provided?
No,
Okay.
we did not receive any other comments.
All right, any other additions to the agenda?
I do have one addition. I had emailed the new application from Asteri Ithaca that the board had seen the original application back in September. They have modified it, and I had asked if we could add that to the agenda today.
And I just ask if all the members of the IDA have received the revised application and had a chance to see it. Okay, good. All right, any other additions or changes? We're going to change the order, correct?
It looks like, is Dr. Stallone going to join us, Sandy?
Yes, he is, but, I'm going to do a quick intro, and that will
Okay.
take a few minutes.
Well, if you'd like, we could take another item of business and we'll start as soon as he gets here. If you want to do it that way, otherwise you can start.
I mean, it's obviously your call. I'm whatever, but I'm happy to start and even talk about, if he doesn't join by the time I do a broad overview, could talk about the affordable and the mixed use. And then when he joins, we can jump right into the medical office and go from there, if that's fine.
Yeah,
That sounds fine.
I just talked to his assistant and he's starting to finish up.
Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Rich, did you want to go ahead and do the Labor Committee appointment first?
I was going to, but that's okay. It sounds like they're ready to go and
Okay.
we'll get Dr. Stallone in a few minutes. So,
Rich,
Okay.
if I can just say something, a number of us have a 4:30 budget meeting, and so I'm gonna really just have to turn off at 4 o'clock to get ready for that one. So I know we have a lot of stuff going on, but
Thank you, Ina.
Okay. So you have before you 3 applications for Carpenter Park. And just for ease of understanding, I went back and forth with the applicant and we decided to submit them as 3 applications. It is one project. It was approved by the city of Ithaca under a PUD. There is a requirement that there be affordable housing on the site, and that is achieved through one part of this project. But you do see before you 3 separate applications. And I'm going to go ahead and let the project team talk about the projects. And then I will touch on the proposed tax abatement structures and what they're looking for in terms of incentive from the IDA.
Well, thank you. I'm Andy Bodowitz. For those of you I don't know, I appreciate your time here today. We appreciate all the support throughout the community on this complicated project. I have with me today Tim Crilly. Tim is a development associate at our company, Park Grove Realty. We're the developer of record, along with partnering with Cayuga Medical Center on this project. And really, I think it's important to note that we are partners with Cayuga Medical Center on the entire project. We're leading the development effort, obviously, because they're doing such a really, quite honestly, tremendous job providing healthcare in your community. And from all observations, they've done a great job given all the things that they've been dealing with over the last few months. But so we're happy to be partnering with them. Cayuga Medical Center is also a partner, a not-for-profit partner in the project for the affordable housing, and is also a part of the ownership structure with the other 2 aspects of the project as well, which I think is an important point. As Heather mentioned, it is one project. It was approved as one project as a PUD. And I think, as everyone knows, it's been a very complicated and protracted approval process. There's a lot of stakeholders involved, and we've come a long way, and we're very grateful for the collaborative effort of everyone on this project. And Heather, does the site plans and the stuff we shared, is that something that everyone has in a packet, or is that does that get put on the screen or some way?
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see their site plan there?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just give a quick introduction, and then if Dr. Stallone joins, we'll have him speak about the medical office building, and then I will speak in a little detail on the affordable and the mixed use, and then we'll be available for any questions.
Yep, and I'm here, just so you know. Thank you.
Oh, great. Well, let me finish my quickly, and then you can jump in and talk about the medical office. I just wanted to share quickly, just so if anyone hasn't seen this, I know like Martha, we met and you're very familiar with our project, but the site plan is up on the screen. The key components we talked about, you see building A is what is the affordable housing building. Building B, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail after Dr. Stallone speaks. Building B and C are the mixed use buildings, and building D is really the driving focal point of this property, which is the medical office building. And this project wouldn't happen if it weren't for Cayuga Medical Center and their leadership and really trying to take this property and transform it from what it is today into something that what we worked hard to do was bring it as sort of a all-inclusive neighborhood that connects to the rest of the Ithaca neighborhood. And for years, this project, or I say this parcel, has been separated from the rest of the city. And our goal from the beginning is how do we connect this into the rest of the city? And so the break and access, which is the curb cut in the middle between buildings C and B, is a big part of that. And we're working currently with the support of the city and the local community to have DOT approve that break and access. It's critical to not only the transportation issues at the site, but really to tie this parcel into the rest of the city. And so there's complexities like that on this project that we've worked hard to solve, and we're almost there, thankfully, with a lot of effort. There's the community gardens, which is on this, which you see between buildings A and B, and the green area largely is the community gardens, which will stay and be preserved. And we will, together with CMC, help infuse some improvement dollars to the community gardens to make them sustainable for the long term. So there's a lot of good things happening overall on this project. The project, and maybe we flip through some of these and you can see some of the renderings. Some of the other challenges on the site, the soils are very poor. The structural components will be very expensive, and that's what building near the waterfront, quite frankly, requires. This we think will transform the entrance into the city. And as you can see here, this gives you a good satellite overhead of rendering of what the project will look like. And you can get a good feel for the whole project from this angle. You get the perspective, and you can kind of see where the medical office building at the southern end of the site will be very visible as you head south on 13, say coming from Lansing. And that's really, we felt was important, is to have that visibility. It's a really, we think, uniquely designed building. Holt has been working on that, and we're very happy with the look and feel of the building. And then you'll see the two mixed-use buildings in the front, and in the background is the affordable building. And I'll get into more detail on that, but we feel it's really a great location for that building. This gives you another perspective of the medical office building and really all of it. And I think it really adds a lot of nice view shed to the entrance into the city. Next slide, another angle there, the office building. And this again gives you a view on the mixed use. And the mixed use will be a very nice project with balconies and there's a sort of a courtyard recreation area on the rooftop that will have a small sort of sun deck with a little wading pool and thing, sort of that will be for the benefit of the residents. We think it'll be a really nice spot. And we really wanted to create a mixed income community where we have affordable, where we have market rate, where we, and a mixed use facility where we have the medical office and people living and people working and people and services, maybe some food, businesses, coffee shop, that kind of thing. So we're excited about this project. We think it's great. We've come a long way with it. It's a challenging site. The mixed use, one of the key other components of the aspects of the unique nature of this site is that the parking is limited, and in working with the city, they really wanted less surface parking. So it forced us to do a parking structure under the building, which is a very expensive component of the building, but it is required. And so there's a lot of unique features that make the pilot requests critical. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Stallone and let him speak a little bit about the medical office building, and then I can go into a little more detail in each of the other phases and be happy to take any questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Andy. And I know that I'm here with Tony, who I'm going to invite to chip in if I miss any point that you feel is important. And I want to thank all of you for taking time and having us here to go over this application. A lot that can be stated. I'll just talk about the medical component of the project, which is very broad and includes other goals in addition to delivering medical care. I like to start by correcting the idea that this is about a medical office building, and I like to describe the project as an access point to programs that are cost and quality driven. We approach this as an accountable care organization. Our larger network, which is CMC and CMA in partnership with most of the private practices in the community. We operate as a team, and we take responsibility for aggregate cost and quality performance. And more and more we're moving in this accountable direction. And so I see this as a location whereby nearby residents who can walk or take public transportation to this access point could be enrolled in cost and quality conscious programs that would accrue benefit back to the ultimate purchasers of care. So that's our notion of healthcare as a system. We also have a leading number in the region of connections to community-based organizations that offer services that we aren't expert in. So the so-called social determinants of health, whether it be nutrition, certainly there's a housing component of this project itself, but we link to social services that concern themselves with living and housing and accompanying services that are not fairly considered medical, certainly into the preventative space as well. So this is a program point whereby a region of the county, the city, is going to have accessible care. In terms of the occupants of the building, we want to start by saying there'll be a federally qualified health center type organization. There are many different structures that this can be, but that is an organization that is geared towards taking care of Medicaid patients in addition to all comers, but it's an organization that is sensitive to the special needs of that population. We've designed a very ample space that can serve a primary care need in that fashion. And we've already started contemplating that organization. And so I'm very happy about that. In addition to walk-in care and a lab servicing and radiology that will be convenient for that community, and then a host of primary and secondary care services that are all linked to our other services. We'll talk about the economic impact of one metric. We always think about FTEs, but I really want to emphasize that care that happens at this location will have follow-up care that happens in this community. My feeling is that's so important for our community to keep the second, third order care that happens after initial health encounters in the community to have the resonating economic benefit locally. So not true with all providers. We're surrounded by institutions who would prefer follow-on visits happen in other communities. I'll remind you that the employment levels we have are contingent on healthcare services being high quality and also being utilized locally. So again, we like to keep care local because it's not only convenient, we can assure the quality, but there's also an economic benefit that accrues to our community. And I think that has to really be slowly contemplated. To the economic benefits, certainly there'll be job FTEs created. There was a conservative estimate of 63 or 62 and change, but I think that the actual number in practice will be much larger. We've been committed to jobs throughout this pandemic. We've seen a stark contraction of health services in health systems around us, and we are at and growing our employment before. And this is because of our lab enterprise, which is a good example of where local healthcare decision-making will make decisions that accrue benefit to the local community. And in much the same way, we'd like to keep that mindset in this project. So there'll be more than 63 FTEs at the end of the day if this plan is executed the way we intend. In terms of the pilot, I think it's true that if we did this as CMC without our development partners who are undoubtedly adding value, it would be a not-for-profit charitable enterprise that's off the tax rolls. So I think that the default is that, and I think this is they're adding so much value and having this be a broader project that brings in development and housing and retail and medical is revolutionary for this community. So I totally endorse the idea of the pilot being supported through the ranks. I'll stop there because I've said a lot, but I'd love to welcome questions. And while I have the floor, just thank everyone for the support during this trying time. Several of you have sent messages about recent events in the hospital, and all of you have expressed support and admiration for the way we've responded to the pandemic locally. So I want to thank you for that while I see some friendly faces.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. And Andrew, did you have something further you were hoping to share with us?
Yeah, now I'm happy to do that. Or if Dr. Stallone, are you available for a few more minutes if I go on, or do you?
Yeah,
would you
nope, I can.
Okay. So I'll just quickly on the other two components of the project point out a few points about them. We had a lot of questions early on, and we worked very closely with the city on locating the affordable. And one of the things that when we started this process, the city was very clear is they wanted to see an affordable component. So we worked diligently to find the best spot for placing the affordable housing. And I don't know if it's possible to just do that site plan again, Heather, real quick, that shows building A's location. But it's behind, I think of all, you're all familiar with the site. It's behind the B&W. And really the reason we did that is that we wanted to keep it as removed as possible from 13 and the traffic on 13. And the mixed use buildings have much more exposure to the traffic on 13. The mixed use buildings, we expect to have an occupancy of sort of empty nesters as well as younger people, millennials, and less likely to have young kids. We felt that the population in the affordable building may very well have younger children, and we wanted to try to pull it back from the road. And this location does that. It gets it, obviously this is a challenging site, but it is the place where it would be furthest from 13, allows a little green space next to building A. It's hard to tell from this rendering, but we do have a little playground that is next to the building. And it's adjacent to the rest of the green space for the most part, which is the community gardens. And so we feel it's the best location for the affordable, and that's why we chose that spot. The affordable project we've submitted it to HCR. I think we're on our third effort to get funding. We're very experienced with doing this. We know that the HCR process is you have to be persistent, and that's what we are and what we will continue to be as we proceed to try to get funding. We're currently in the funding round right now, and we're not sure when they will make decisions. The funding round has been thrown off a little bit because of the pandemic and the economic impact to New York State. And so the resources this last funding round are very limited. We know that INHS is submitted as well. They're in for their first time. We're hoping that being in for the third time helps. We do know that the staff likes the project a lot. It did take a lot of effort to share with them the benefits of this location, but they are fully positive at this point on this project, and that it is very fundable and should be funded at some point soon.
Okay.
The mixed use has a retail component at the ground level and parking as well at the ground level, and then market rate above. The it is sort of similar to some of the other market rate projects you've seen recently, but we feel it's unique because it is probably, if not the only, one of the only mixed use or market rate projects that has an affordable built right next to it as part of the same project. And we like the fact that we're able to do that. There's some great benefits of this, to have the retail space at the ground floor and be able to provide potential services and food and things like that for medical office visitors as well as employees. The residential, we think, is a great location. People will like the ability to be able to walk places and have the trail and be close to the waterfront. We have a TCAP bus stop that will be added at that right near Building B. And so there's a real lot of positive things. I should mention that the parking is shared parking. So part of the parking that's part of the mixed use will benefit the medical office building as well. And that was a important in the approval process that we offered shared parking. So the parking in large part as part of the mixed use will be shared and for the benefit of the medical office as well. And in addition, we did do our parking, a good part of our parking under the building at a greater expense to create that opportunity to share that surface parking. Just another couple quick points. The pilot that we're requesting for Building A is very similar and is modeled after INHS's 210 Hancock. And the pilot on the mixed use is your standard pilot that has been provided to City Harbor, City Center. It doesn't deviate in really in any way. It follows those guidelines. And lastly, the medical office building pilot is also following precedent that was established by the Johnson School a few years ago, and is really the same type of structure. So with that, I will stop talking and be happy to take any questions. And I know Dr. Stallone and Tony Bota are available as well. And thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation. I anticipate one question we're going to have is to address the issue that Teresa Alt raised, that these are really not three separate projects, that the whole financial structure hangs together, I assume. I hate to use the term the shin bone is connected to the knee bone, but here it is, medical. If you could just talk to that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one project. It was reviewed and approved as one project. We have, as part of the PUD, we have requirements that, for example, the mixed use and medical office, and we need to execute on the affordable. We have a period of time where we have to be able to obtain the financing for the affordable. If we don't do that, we have to go back to City Council. But more importantly, I think it's sort of the idea that they're three separate is only in the sense that tax credits, for example, that are provided to fund affordable housing require a single asset entity. So you have to have an LLC that's a separate LLC for only that project. And the investor who buys the tax credits will only invest in a project that has a single asset entity. And really the same holds true with all these projects in the sense that, yes, they're the same partners involved, but they have separate financing mechanisms. So the affordable has an affordable tax credit and state funding program. The mixed use is potentially likely to have opportunity zone investor funds because it is an opportunity zone. And the medical office has a separate financing stream associated with the fact that it's a medical office building and that CMC is a large part of that. So
Okay,
it's one project, but they do have separate financing.
thanks. Okay, and then let's go to Martha.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Dr. Stallone and Andy and everybody involved in this. I know this has been a long time in the works, and it's very exciting. And yes, as Dr. Stallone, you and your team's partnership with the whole community in Tompkins County is really, it's been amazing, and we're so this I think is part of the partnership. I have a mixed bunch of questions. So but let me go to the affordable housing. Is it right, maybe this is an Andy question, that while we've been looking at housing projects within CTAP, within the IDA's housing policy, and asking for developers to put in, have 20% of their units, or the city said 20%, we said 10%, whatever, of units within a building to be lower income. The tax credit program does not allow mixed income rental units. Is that right? That you had to have a separate building that had to have, I think maybe highest is 80% of area median income. That's the way I understand that. Is that right?
So, yeah, thank you for your question, Martha. There's a lot of different affordable housing programs, and it is true that the state, and New York State in particular, has done a pretty good job, or as good a job as any state, in trying to create the opportunity to have more sort of mixed, what you referred to as mixed income within one building. Nevertheless, it is still extremely challenging to pull that off, and you have to sort of have all the right circumstances. In this case, we have a couple things here that are a challenge, or a few really significant challenges. The cost of this site, the infrastructure, the parking, the structural components, because the soil would make to try to add affordable units to buildings B and C would make it very challenging. Those buildings in particular are much more expensive to build than building A, because building A doesn't have the parking, doesn't have the load, the structural load, and won't require the amount of additional structural support that buildings B and C require. But probably the most important reason that we couldn't do it on this project is because buildings B and C have opportunity zone investors, and building A has tax credit investors. So they're different types of investment vehicles and equity sources that will drive those components. And there really isn't a way as of yet to mix those and try to create one deal using the benefit of both of those potential real equity sources.
Okay. Opportunities.
More, Martha?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The opportunity zone is kind of a whole new animal we haven't played with yet. That's a different wrinkle. But my understanding was that the tax credit program does not apply when you've got market rate. It has to be all subsidized units. Let me ask if so is it so confusing about who is managing the apartment building, and who would be, is that Baldwin or Park Grove, or who would be doing income qualification for the affordable units?
So the affordable project and really all components of this project, Park Grove, we've partnered with a group, DeMarco Group. They're also based in Rochester. DeMarco Group is a developer and owner of multifamily housing, but they're also have DeMarco Constructors, which is a substantial general contractor. And part of the reason we asked them to help us with it is because they bring the general contractor hat to the table, and they also.
You're talking about construction now.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about construction. I was asking about managing it, living with it for 50 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
Managing.
so I'm giving you more information maybe than you want. I apologize. So, but DeMarco also has a group called Baldwin Management, and they also develop, own, and manage affordable housing. And so the affordable housing building has a high level of experience in terms of team members because it's Park Grove, and my partner and I were formerly with Conifer and DeMarco, and DeMarco's affordable housing arm, Baldwin, will manage it. And they'll be the management agent. They manage currently several thousand units throughout upstate New York of affordable housing, and they will be the manager. But they will also be the general contractor, and they build hundreds of units of affordable housing a year throughout the state, not just for themselves, but for other affordable housing developers in New York State.
Okay, so the people who are going to be taking applications from tenants and checking their income, that's the Baldwin Group, and they have a lot of experience in doing that, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, and just finally, the IDA's housing policy that we just put in place a couple months ago says that either an entity puts, if you have a long-term arrangement like 210 Hancock, or you've put, if you're not doing that, then you have to put in either a certain percentage of units or payment into our community housing development fund. Are we to look at this, like the 3 housing buildings, as one project then, and by that measure, because of the affordable units, was it 42 affordable units, I think?
Yeah.
So that allows you to meet the threshold. You have the more than sufficient number of units that are affordable. Heather, I guess this is a Heather question.
Yes, that's the way that I talked about it with the applicant, and there's 166 market rate units and 42 affordable units. So that would meet the 20% overall requirement.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Hey, John.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk some. I also have a series of a couple of questions here, but just to begin with, this question of whether this is one project or not. And I think that, am I correct in understanding that this is, you're going to subdivide this property? There will be 3 separate entities that will own 3 separate properties with separate ownership groups. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, again, yes, it is. As I said, they all have separate financing vehicles, and it's required to have 3 separate ownership entities because of the financing and that derives each component part of the project. But the ownership of each component part will be substantially the same, with the exception that the affordable housing will ultimately, if we receive a tax credit award, we'll have another investor who will come in, who will buy the tax credits and will be a part of ownership, along with Park Grove, DeMarco, and Cayuga Medical Center. There will be a tax credit investor. But yes, there's separate parcels ultimately to drive the financing.
Right. And so, I mean, usually when we're looking at, a project that's got, a housing component. I mean, so, right, we just passed this policy that basically says a project that has a housing component has to contribute, per unit to the Community Housing Development Fund. And I mean, basically, if you were coming to us with just the mixed use building, you'd be required to make that contribution if you were going to get a pilot on that building. And, ultimately, the way that this is conceptualized, it's like we've given you, or we would be giving you our sort of, the highest level of abatement we give out is for these entirely affordable projects, right? Where we're basically, I mean, we're cutting in half the 581A assessment on the project, and so it's like you're getting that incentive there, and also not contributing to the housing fund when you have really, I mean, these are they are built under one, plan unit development. you're building a whole neighborhood. So, you know, I'm not sure that I'm really with you on that this is one project conceptually or even legally. And I think that we really are going to have to look carefully at whether or not, you know, we would be in compliance with our own policy that we've just adapted if we move forward with the abatement as conceptualized. So I think that's going to be a serious issue going forward in considering this project. I also have a question about the medical office building is what percentage of that is actually occupied by Cayuga Medical Center as a tenant of the building itself?
100%.
I can address that in that either Cayuga Medical Center or Cayuga Medical Associates or the FQHC lookalike, those are all Cayuga Health System entities. And Cayuga Medical Center will lease the entire building. And if we sublease, it'll be to our own entities. So
Okay.
100% is what
And
we're-
are those other entities also 501c3 nonprofits?
Cayuga Medical Associates is a 501c3 nonprofit, and the FQHC will be required to be. So yeah,
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, that really helps with the picture on that one because ultimately, right, if you have tenants that are not nonprofit,
Right.
then that part of the building is taxable, et cetera. So that's helpful to understand there.
and I might add that CMC owns all of the land. And so we're leasing the land to the developer and then leasing the building that's building for us.
Understood. Yeah, but I mean, you know, right, if it's not used in service of your
Exactly.
charitable mission, then it's taxable, right?
Right.
And then I also wanted to ask a question about, you talked about adding TCAT service in front of building B. Is there presently good TCAT service in front of building A? I'm sort of interested to know what that connector looks like for folks. If they're gonna have to head all the way over. I mean, it's a minor issue, of course, but.
I don't know. Do you know where the stop is? If there's
The
one in
stop,
building A?
the stop currently is in the Aldi parking lot, I believe.
Right.
Okay, so it's right across the street. It's pretty
Right.
convenient.
You're not getting rid of that.
Okay.
No, I think they're
Right. So this is really an addition of more points that people can connect into the
Right.
system.
Yep.
That's excellent.
Anything else, John?
Nope, that covers my questions.
Okay, let's go to Ann.
Thank you. A lot of my questions have been asked and answered already, but just a couple more. So one is, and maybe this was brought up before, but are there going to be chargers for electric or hybrid cars?
Yes, we intend on having chargers within the two mixed-use buildings.
Okay. And I am also struggling as far as regarding what John said, as far as if this had come, for instance, at the beginning with 3 different properties, 3 different projects. So that's kind of how I'm trying to frame this, you know, versus if that had happened at the beginning or if this is happening now. So anyway, I'm struggling with it all being one project at this point. And I also want to second what Martha said as far as with Dr. Stallone and Cayuga Medical Center, you know, really appreciating so much all that you've done for this community and literally saving a lot of lives. So thank you very much.
Thank you for expressing that. We'll pass it along to our team as well. Thank you.
Okay. Jennifer.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have unmuted already, or maybe somebody did that for me. This is a lot of paper and 3 separate applications, and so I'm pouring through them here and trying to find all my reference points. But can someone just remind me again, Heather, you just a minute ago referenced the total number of housing units versus the 42 workforce. Can you tell me again what the total number was? Or can someone?
There's 166 mixed use. There's 42 affordable units for a total of 208.
Okay, and I guess the reason that I was asking is, I mean, I sort of hear people's concerns, but I also understand from a business perspective why this is 3 separate projects, and I understand why it needs to be separated for any number of reasons. I do think if we looked at it as one entire project again, that you probably are actually exceeding, not only just meeting the affordable requirements. I didn't run the number. Isn't it awfully close to what it seems
It's 20%.
20%.
Oh, exactly, 20%, okay. I still think it's a substantial number of additional units. I guess I don't share the same concern about trying to separate it back out or trying to apply the policy to the project separately, because if as a whole it still does meet the criteria, and we all understand the reasons why these project components are separate, you're achieving a lot of community objectives with these different project components. You're creating new jobs, you're adding a substantial, basically you're building an entire neighborhood. I think someone already said it. So I guess I just wanted to offer an alternate perspective on putting additional requirements on each project component versus being willing to waive that. I don't know if it's waive that requirement, but look at it as a whole, even though it does need to be considered as these separate individual projects, just based on the legal structure and all the other project needs. So
Okay,
thank you.
Rich, this is Laura. Can I jump in?
absolutely. Laura, welcome to the meeting, by the way. I saw you
Oh,
join.
thanks. Yeah, I have been here, but I'm having some technology glitches and can't get my video working. I appreciate the complexity of this project. I also agree with the points that Jennifer just made. I'm really pleased that there will be the development of a site that has sat vacant for so many years, and that we will have a healthcare facility in downtown, much needed. And I'm very pleased with the 42 units of affordable housing. I also appreciate the attention that's been given to the concerns many of us expressed about parking, the surface level parking. So even though it's been a greater challenge to work on the parking under the market rate buildings, I really do appreciate that. The question I have is, and this is maybe jumping ahead, but could you comment on the building materials for the workforce housing and the market rate housing? My concern is that we not have buildings that look different or markedly different one from the other from the affordable and the market rate unit. So can you say a little bit, Andy, about the design, the materials that will be used in the two projects?
Thank you, Laura. Yes, I'd be happy to. We spent a lot of time at Planning Board actually on this issue and worked hard to come up with building materials that, well, we didn't want to have an identical look or tried to make them work together, but not necessarily be exact. The materials themselves, though, will be the same. So, for example, the building C and B have a brick base and then a fiber cement, sort of what's often known by its trade name, Hardy panel siding. The affordable building will also have those same exterior materials. And in addition, that affordable housing building will have something that the buildings C and B won't have, which is in sensitivity to the train being a little closer to building A. We'll have triple glazed windows on that building, which are really high quality, very efficient, but also, as you can imagine, excellent for noise attenuation as well. And so the building materials will be identical. The difference is that the affordable building is a slab on grade construction and won't have the parking underneath that you see at the mixed use buildings.
Thank you for that. If I could just follow up, I remember from one of the earlier meetings that the triple glazed windows in the affordable building were at one point going to be on one side of the building. And will they be triple glazed windows on all exterior of the affordable building?
I think
Yeah.
we did. Go ahead.
Yes, they will, or they will be.
Good. Thank you.
We're pretty far in the weeds there, Laura. But good.
Well, I'm thinking of all these meetings that many of us have been to and looking at these projects. And I really do appreciate the development team paying such attention to these in the weeds kinds of questions that many of us had.
Yes.
So thanks.
No, I'm glad about all the meetings I've missed here. This is good.
There have been a lot.
I will take a turn and jump in very quickly, and I will not repeat what Jennifer and Laura have said because they summarized pretty well. But looking at a POD development on a single piece of land where everything's going to be built at the same time in conjunction with each other and in a common plan, and the community impacts are going to be received together, I don't see a problem with us looking at this in terms of our policy as a whole project rather than three separate ones. Anyway, I like what I see. But we should probably think about moving this towards a public hearing vote pretty quickly. Martha, I see you had a second round.
Yeah, I'm
If
gonna
we could
try
just try
not
to go
to,
as quickly as we can.
I know, I'm gonna try not to be weedy questions or bigger questions, such as, has Park Grove ever built a medical facility? Park Grove is the builder. Again, I'm confused with all the entities. Who's,
Yeah. Sorry, so Park Grove is, and DeMarco are ownership, development and ownership partners on the medical facility as well. And Park Grove has been involved or our principals have been involved in medical office development. We're not a contractor, so we've developed medical office. We never built a medical office. We don't build, but we do have DeMarco Group and their affiliate, DeMarco Constructors, is the general contractor, has built many medical office facilities and hospital work as well.
And Martha, I would add also that Holt Architects, local to Ithaca, has done the design on the medical office building.
so that leads me to, so you got 4 buildings. And I'm a little, can't remember which ones have heat pumps and which don't, but I know I saw that on, I think, 2 of the buildings. Can you describe, if you don't have heat pumps on all of them instead of gas heating, could you explain?
I believe we have pumps on all of the buildings, air source heat pumps. The reason why the affordable is a little bit different is because it follows energy incentive programs that are specific to HCR. And they're pretty stringent on their policies with regard to green building and whatnot. As a side note, we worked hand in hand with Tatum Engineering on the medical office building, on the mixed use building, to ensure that we're meeting the 2025 Ithaca Green Code.
Right, I guess I missed the first thing you said. So you said the 3 buildings are heated with heat pumps, but the affordable housing has to follow different regs by HCR.
Not,
No gas though.
yeah, there is no gas.
No gas fired. No, there is no gas fired heating in any of the buildings.
Okay, great, thank you. There's a little confusion on, is the project paying for the extension of 3rd Street and traffic lights and calming on Route 13? It sounded in one place like you were assuming that those were part of your project costs.
So we are working with, where Martha, we applied for URI to assist with some of those costs. We don't know really whether that's going to happen. We are working closely with the city. The mayor is very supportive of coming up with some way to assist in the cost, particularly with the infrastructure. But as of right now, yes, the risk is on us as the development team. If there is no public source of funding to assist, it is on us. And we've made that agreement with the city, and we've agreed to work together to try to identify where we might get some assistance if URI doesn't work, but as of right now, yes.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. And just one more, Rich, excuse me. So Cougar Medical, you proudly state you're the 4th largest employer in the county. In all 3 of these applications, the diversity statement left a bit to be desired. Is there, and Heather, we've passed a diversity policy. So is this project or these projects complying? I didn't get that sense.
I have made the applicant aware that for all 3 projects, the jobs that are being pledged through Baldwin for the affordable units and for the management group for the mixed use units, and then also for the jobs being pledged through Cayuga Medical Center, that they will need to follow the diversity and inclusion policy of the IDA.
Okay, great. That'd be really nice to see a leadership, statement there.
Martha, I'll just say, we're not at the point of advertising it yet, but for the past year, before 2020, we've been committed to a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan that we'll be prepared to speak about, but we've made great strides, and we're actually organizing the private practices in the community, led by our new systems CMO, and engaging local consultants to help us. So I think we've made great strides in that area, and we'll be able to, I think, comply with any request that's made of us.
That sounds great. And I think when we get to the public hearing, you would have the opportunity to make some statements, make a presentation at the front end of the hearing. That kind of statement would I'm sure, go a long way. All right, thanks very much. Appreciate the time.
Anybody else with questions or comments? Are we ready to vote on sending it to a public hearing? Could I get a motion to that effect? Mike moves.
I'll
Jennifer
second it.
seconds.
Oh.
John, did you have something?
No, I just offered a second. It sounds like
Oh,
Jennifer
okay.
beat me to the punch.
All right. If I could put it to a vote, Mike,
We just be clear before, are we voting on all 3 projects right now?
yes, I was thinking it would be one public hearing, yes. Okay. Do you want to vote on them individually, John, or you?
No. We have 3 applications here. We should be clear that that is what we were voting on. That's all.
Okay.
Just want to make
I
sure.
was assuming we were voting on all 3 to go to public hearing. So good clarification. All right, Mike,
Yes.
Martha,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right, so thank you very much for the presentation. This has been very informative, and we'll see the next step when the public hearing is scheduled. We'll see what the public has to say. So very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
All right, and Jennifer, I think we're moving on to the Asteri application.
Oh, does that mean I get to leave? Why'd you call me out? Because I'm recusing myself?
I don't know about that. Yeah.
If
However-
Jennifer could just state for the record why she's recusing herself from the discussion.
Sure. I will be abstaining from discussion or voting related to the Asteri project because I am directly involved in a component of the project, which is the conference center development.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think we have a representative here with us from the project, Heather?
Yes, Rick Manzardo is here, and we did put up on the website with the agenda packet, and I also emailed the updated application. The changes in the application really are there's a reduction in units. There's a reduction in square footage by about 18,000 square feet. The project costs have been reduced by about $4 million. The sales tax exemption, mortgage recording tax exemption amounts have gone down a little bit. They have added a taxable bond to the project, so there is less traditional bank financing and up to $45 million in bond issuance from the IDA. Those are the major changes there. We did revise the numbers on the affordable housing pilot numbers because the project costs have gone down, the units have gone down a little bit. And this was a project that you had already seen in August. You had approved moving it on to a public hearing. We did not hold the public hearing because it came to our attention that the number of units might be changing. So that's what you have before you here today to consider accepting this application, moving it on to a public hearing.
Okay. And Mr. Manzardo, welcome to the meeting.
Hey, thank you all.
And I'd suggest perhaps you want to speak to us just on the changes generally that you're bringing to this application.
Absolutely. And I should thank the Carpenter Park folks. I think they answered about 95% of the questions because they seem like very similar projects. Yeah, so essentially what happened is we got to looking at our project, the proximity to the Herald Square project, and going up 12 stories. I mean, it was pretty tight along the way. We had a lot of talks with them, talks with the city, and in terms of we can get that separation up to about 45 feet between the two buildings. It would just offer better quality of life for tenants on both sides of the equation. And that did result in a reduction of 36 units. Knowing the need in Ithaca, I mean, we're affordable housing developers. This is what we do. We're not going to trade this off without something down the road. So speaking with David Lubin at his Chainworks development, we've got a site control or an option for a site to put about another 100 affordable units. Again, this will be probably 3 years down the road, give or take. Nothing approved, but just something in our pipeline for another location within Ithaca to serve another affordable population. Even though we've got the unit reduction, we're still going to have the 40 supportive units working with TC Action. We feel the positive aspects of the project really have not changed. It is, like I said, a 36 unit reduction count. We did add the $45 million in taxable bonds, and that's due to the financing structure for the conference center and the parking garage. I'll kind of go through my quick list. Again, we were approved for seeker last month, so we've got that going. Site plan, we're up for site plan approval. I think it's October 22nd in the very near future. Again, still working with Tatum engineers, no fossil fuels in the development as initially planned outside of the commercial kitchen. We will have electric car charging stations. Parking garage really hasn't changed. We're still 350 units. Conference center has not changed, still 55,000 square foot in that ballpark. So again, this is largely the same development that we presented a couple months ago outside of the unit count reduction and the addition of the taxable bond issuance.
Okay. Well, thank you for that quick summary. I see we do have a question. John, why don't you
Yeah,
lead us off?
I'm curious. I'll say disappointed, but not with you that we're losing so many units in this project. I'm curious if you looked at possibility to actually go taller with the building and see if if the city would grant you some extra floors to get those units back, or if that's something that you were not hadn't looked at.
We looked at that, and I know that the Rimland project, I think they got maybe a 1-floor variance plus another sky deck on top. So they got a height variance down the street. Really what we were faced with is if we went taller, our cost per unit, it was still going to go up the same amount. And
Right.
given the state of the New York budget right now, we didn't think it was wise to push it too much. This project, it has a pretty sizable subsidy ask. They still firmly stand behind it, but there is a limit to that. So we felt adding 181 affordable units was a good second project for us in town, knowing that we've got the Chainworks down the road. So no, I'm with you. Disappointed to lose the 36 units, but I think we've got a trade-off there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in the interest of not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, I will enthusiastically move this to public hearing.
Sorry, I was on mute, but given that we had a random motion there, why don't we put it on the floor? Is there a second? And we'll
I
continue.
would glad to
questions.
second it, Laura.
Okay. I'll take Laura as a second. Thank you. And continuing on with questions, Martha.
Yeah, I understand how this works, and I think it's if you can still make the project work, that's fantastic. When you talk about Chainworks and having, you know, I guess an informal agreement or whatever with Mr. Lubin, that sounds very interesting, especially when you say it's only 3 or 4 years ahead. Is that
Optimistic, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been saying that for about 15 years, right? But that's, I mean, I think that's a real plus. So is that what you're saying? Did you say 100, hoping maybe 100 units?
Yeah, it's the site. It is, shoot, I'm trying to think of my head. It's about a half mile from basically from this site. It's the closest site within that development to the downtown core.
Okay.
It is, yeah, I give or take, I'd say probably 100 units on the site. Again, it would still have to go through all the funding process. So it's not a guaranteed project, but again, it's something we would definitely push towards.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right. Ann?
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's, from what I can tell, it looks like the housing units are going to be reduced. Was there any, I didn't notice if there's any reduction in the size of the conference center?
Yeah, conference center stayed static at roughly 55,000 square foot in that ballpark.
Okay.
So really,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It was just the residential and floors 4 and up. The tower was moved back on that, and that was really that was a physical alteration to the plan.
Okay, just want to confirm that, and so that the parking is still the same too.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I don't see anybody with hand raised. Laura, did you have anything?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back to us again. And I'm certainly happy to hear that you reached agreement with your neighbor through a somewhat difficult process, it sounds, but you got there, which is really good. And we have it on the floor. Are we ready to vote to send this to public hearing? And I will make the rounds. Mike? Mike, are you there? Yeah?
Sorry, yeah, I had a lost me. Yes.
Okay. Martha?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Christine,
Oh, right. Yep. Jan? Ann?
Yes, and I hope John doesn't get 2 votes. Just want to point that out.
John?
Yes, and I think Ethan votes yes too. Buildings for him.
Okay, Laura?
Yes,
Right, and the chair votes yes. So thank you for coming in, and we'll see where this goes at public hearing.
Great. Hey, thank you, everyone.
Progress, yes.
thank you.
And I see the next item on our agenda is the TCIDA Emergency COVID-19 Grant Program. Heather?
So this came about in discussion at the IDA. I think Martha Robertson suggested we look at this. And so I talked to some colleagues and figured out a way that now that the IDA has the ability from the state to provide grants up to $10,000 for PPE and other fixtures related to combating COVID-19. I put together a proposed grant program that would specifically support childcare centers. I worked with Soudale Hall to sort of refine who would be eligible, the types of centers, the legal kinds of names that those centers are, group family daycare, and the like. I'm proposing that the loan committee of Tompkins County Area Development intake applications and make recommendations for approval to the IDA on a first come, first served basis. And I'm recommending that the IDA set aside $100,000 to fund this grant program. Under the state regulations that allow us to do these grants, we're allowed to do them up to, I think it's 90 days. I put it in the resolution, up to a certain number of days after the emergency related to COVID ends. So I put together a quick resolution, and then there's a page of guidelines and the proposed application in the agenda packet.
Okay. Martha. You're muted.
Sorry. Heather, this is great. Yay, thank you. Do have a couple questions. I hope this will be kind of made as easy as possible for applicants. I know the application is kind of based on your loan applications, but things like the word company might not really apply. I also hope it'll be really evident that this is not just for PPE or cleaning supplies, but for, and you've said it in a couple places, but it's a little bit hidden, for renovations, for construction, maybe even HVAC improvements. I think maybe that should be specifically spelled out, because that's personally, that's one of my concerns, is what is, especially family daycare, just in somebody's home, you may really need to do something better on HVAC. So those are some general comments. On the loan committee itself, do you feel there's any need to have somebody with some background in childcare in some way on that committee?
We could ask somebody to participate with us.
Okay, and yeah, I really, and to be clear, even though it's the loan committee making decisions, these are grants, not loans.
Yes.
Great, okay, I love it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Jennifer.
Well, I might totally throw a little bit of a cog in the wheel here. Following up sort of on Martha's most recent topic of the committee, I actually was going to ask whether you really need a committee or whether this is something that the staff could do, or that you may be comfortable with the staff making recommendations directly to the board, because these are not large sums of money. You're only going to be able to do 10 of these. If you did the full funding amount, it would probably make the process go faster. I mean, I have full faith that the staff at TCAD has the capacity to review and make determinations about whether applications for this funding meet the criteria, are complete, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if that would be Heather's preference. I'm just asking the question because if it makes things easier and gets the money out the door faster, it might just make sense to make a recommendation directly to the IDA board to approve the applications if staff determines that they're eligible. Just a thought.
I am happy to do that if anyone wants to entertain changing the resolution.
Okay. Well, let's get our questions, and we'll figure out where we're going with it. John?
Thank you. Yeah, and actually, I totally agree with what Jennifer just said. I think for a $2,000 grant, there's no sense in having a committee put that together. Good point, Jennifer. And I also kind of want to just reinforce Martha's point and wonder if we want to actually just put in the very first note that says minimum of 2,000, et cetera, and that applications for construction and renovation that would promote social distancing will be given priority. Should we also say that improve indoor air quality, or something like that? I feel like that's actually a really important point that Martha raised, and it would be worth prioritizing those loans or grants.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to ask Russ to weigh in on that. The legislation specifically says personal protective equipment and fixtures. And I know that for a number of the childcare facilities, that they had applied for some other state funding related to the CARES Act to do some construction, some renovations, some HVAC stuff, and they were denied. So I wanted to make sure that this funding could support some of those things because they couldn't get it through this other CARES Act funding. And, you know, I had some conversation back and forth with Russ and sort of said, okay, does our legislation that the state allows us to do that says personal protective equipment and fixtures give us enough wiggle room that we could justify doing HVAC or construction? I know one center wanted to expand their entry area so that they could do screening as kids came in, that kind of thing. Russ said, yes, it absolutely, I think we could justify that. I'm not sure how much we want to advertise that to the Office of Management and Budget, or the OSC, when they come and audit us.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Russ. You know, obviously the legislation is new and novel. There's been no regulations that have been handed down in connection with it. I think the intent of what the board is talking about doing falls within the spirit of the law and our ability now to grant money for these types of expenditures. So I don't have a hard and fast legal conclusion for you, but I think given what we're talking about doing is defensible and falls within, again, the spirit of the law. And frankly, from a practical standpoint, you know, what would OSC do if it was determined that we couldn't use the money to build a new entranceway, or it's not truly equipment? I really don't know. Probably nothing. We may get our hands slapped a little bit, but I have no problem proceeding with, you know, with what we're talking about doing. If we go beyond that, I think we'd have to deal with that based upon the facts.
Okay. All right. I'll jump in with a comment here. Yeah. By the way, Russ, it looks like you're in witness protection.
I don't. It's weird.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, maybe I am, but
So am I, Russ.
I have this office, and I digress here, that is all windows, and it's a sunny day, and I look, my face is almost like a dark circle. So I'm here. I'm not in witness protection. It's just the weird lighting.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. You know, I attend the biweekly call on reopening, and it's become a misnomer because we're kind of open, but it's dealing with all the different range of schools and the health department and health agencies. Jennifer's on that call, but we hear from Suedale Hall every 2 weeks. And I do not want to get into the childcare business. The challenges that are facing any organization that's doing childcare are remarkable. You know, and it's like all of the difficulties of opening a school plus. I think this is a great idea. I don't have any strong feeling about changing the language to change the parameters of what the grants could be. Heather, I'm fine with us managing it here at the IDA level. I think we could process these pretty quickly using your staff. Great idea. I think we should do it. So, Martha, you had a comment, question?
Yeah. First, Russ, that didn't help at all, and I hate to deprive you of the sunlight. So, would
Nothing. I concur. Sorry.
All right.
Well,
Suedale
he
Hall
needs
is
a
probably
lamp
going
in front of him.
to
Sorry.
lamp in front of him, right?
Leave the light in front of you, Russ.
Suedale Hall is probably going to be encouraging and talking this up to providers, right? So she can say things that we might not want to put in writing. I didn't say that publicly, but am I right?
In a recorded meeting.
Yeah, I mean,
Live on YouTube.
We're on YouTube.
There's no record of any of this.
right.
Who does know about all the applications that were denied for with the CARES Act for the funding for the childcare centers? So those will be the first people we contact. and say, you know, we know you got denied. We think that this funding will be adequate for you. Please apply.
Okay, and if HVAC isn't exactly a fixture, I'd be happy to ask for forgiveness rather than permission from whoever for a $10,000 grant. As far as the loan committee versus the IDA, are we suggesting that, let's say, if these went to the loan committee, they would have to come back to us also? Or would the loan committee just go ahead and approve them?
I think the proposal was we wouldn't have a loan committee, that staff would manage the applications and bring them to us as the IDA. We would act as the loan committee.
Right, I'm asking, I don't know which is actually easier. It might be easier to just have the loan committee do it.
I'm happy to have staff do it. That would probably expedite things. My loan committee is sort of hard to get together sometimes.
Okay.
I just assumed that you would want some additional oversight. I absolutely agree that my staff are perfectly capable of making sure that, you know, the financials look in place and they're, you know, a going concern and they're located in Tompkins County and all the requirements are met. I think that would streamline it a little bit. I didn't know which way the IDA wanted to go, and I wanted to give you as much comfort level as you needed to support this project.
Yeah, for my money or the IDA's money, I'd be happy, whatever's the most streamlined and efficient way to do this is fine.
And I would just ask that when you move the resolution that you move changes to that one now.
Right, thank you.
Okay, John.
Yeah, so I actually just wanted to move the resolution subject to I think we should do both changes. I think we should put the HVAC prioritization in the first point. It sounded from Russ's comment like it should be fine. And you know, I mean, this is being recorded right now. So if we're talking about it and we mean it, let's put it in writing. And also let's strike the bit about the loan committee and make it the staff review.
Okay, with those changes, you want to move it, John?
I do, yes.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Jennifer got her hand up. Good.
Where
Thank
are
you.
we at? Where exactly are we changed? We're looking at the resolution.
Yeah, let's get some language in there. Let's see.
So in the all caps paragraph, there's the language about the loan committee. You want to take that out?
It could say authorizing TCAD staff to review and recommend, or it could just say authorizing the IDA administrator to recommend, which would mean that Heather would just be the final say, or she would recommend to the IDA board.
I think I'd like to have TCAD staff. I will probably have Chuck Schwerin, our business services director, make the recommendations.
Okay, and then this second to last paragraph on the next page, the loan committee of Tompkins County Area Development. I think that's
Staff.
staff. Yeah.
Staff.
Okay. With
And
those,
then, I mean, the other change was in the grant program guide, the very first note. We wanted to add prioritizing improvements that improve indoor air quality.
yeah, and I think if we leave it there, that can be air filters, it can be HVAC, it could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, fresh air inside, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
That need to be in the resolution?
I didn't see anything about that in the resolution. Did I miss something?
Well, I see at top of page 71, it says, with grants up to $10,000 for the purpose of acquiring personal protective equipment or installing fixtures necessary to prevent the spread.
I think that language is fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, HVAC is a fixture, right?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Okay, Ann?
Just wondering, since we're talking about fixtures, because say some area, if they're like adding some type of system, like forced air system that they didn't have before, and they had radiant system. So do we want to put anything in there that's saying that they're not increasing their use of fossil fuels, or not putting, if they're putting in a new system, that they're not using fossil fuels?
I don't think we need to do that. I think we make it a lot more complicated. Certainly.
I'm just saying, if somebody has electric radiant heat and to exchange air, they could put in a gas or an oil forced air system that we could be paying for.
Martha?
Yeah, I guess in the interest of helping a beleaguered part of the essential workforce, I wouldn't want to make it any harder for the money to be used and to be used quickly. And at the most, if those would be, I'd hesitate to do that.
That could be something that's that could be something that's addressed in the application that would be coming forward. So the staff, TCAD staff, could speak with applicants about something such as that, I think.
Maybe the county's Business Energy Advisor Program, maybe there could be consultation with Andrea Aguirre, just, touch base and see if there's anything, if that comes up, if it's relevant.
Okay.
I will certainly be aware to look for that as applications come in and they describe what they're doing with the funding.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Are we ready to vote? Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes, thank you.
Jennifer?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that's unanimous. Great.
Rich, and if there's
Well,
a,
that's really good news.
if we need to have an extra meeting, a special meeting to approve any of these, rather than wait a month, I'm happy to meet.
Okay.
Yeah. Agreed. That's a good
Um,
point, Martha.
I know that we're under some time constraints. Martha, you said you needed to leave. I see we do need to approve minutes, and if there's any other staff reports.
There's also the budget.
Oh, okay. Let's pick up the budget then on page 76, I believe.
So again, this is the draft budget that needs to go into Paris. This is based on where we think we're going to end up at the end of the year and projects that we know will be paying admin fees in 2021.
Okay, any questions or comments on the budget?
I'm just curious. I assume that there's some project that we thought was going to go in 20 that got pushed out, and that's why the decrease in fees.
Yeah. It's just a matter of timing of when we think projects will close.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Sure. So moved.
John moves. Second? Oh, Ann seconds? Okay. All right. Mike?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes,
Jennifer? Yes. John?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So, okay. And then we have the minutes of August 12th, 2020. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes? Mike moves and seconds. All right. Mike?
Yes.
Martha?
yes,
Jennifer?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Right, and the chair votes yes. Okay. Heather, anything other coming up on staff report?
I just wanted to make everyone aware that the Common Council last week voted to eliminate the two-step CTAP process with the IDA. So I will be incorporating the city's requirements into a CTAP policy that wholly sits with the IDA. So applicants will no longer have to apply to the city and fill out the city's application, host a public meeting at the city level, and then have the city administratively send us a letter on those projects. Projects will still need to meet the same basic requirements of the city's CTAP policy, which would be, they need to be in the downtown density zone, which includes downtown and the West End. It does not include Cherry Street. They would need to be increasing the value of the property by more than $500,000. It needs to be 3 stories in construction or a major renovation of an existing building. We will accept projects that are a brownfield or registered brownfield site outside of the density zone, and all projects need to show that they will be that they are compliant with all municipal regulations. If they own other rental properties, they need to be up to date on their taxes, all that kind of thing. So I think that this is a real step forward for CTAP. I think it demonstrates that we've had a real partnership with the city of Ithaca for over 20 years and revised that policy several times over those 2 decades. And I think it shows that there's some level of trust with the city that the IDA are being good stewards of our collective property tax dollars. You know, we have, at the request of the city, adopted the an affordable housing policy. We've adopted a labor policy, the diversity and inclusion policy countywide. So, you know, we've definitely been responsive to requests from the city. I will be at the city's planning committee meeting next week to present on the some of the results that we're seeing from the local labor policy. So if anyone wants to tune in, they live stream all those meetings. And I just wanted to report that the labor committee is meeting, I think it's next week. We have that on our agenda, and Marcus Willamy from the Plumbers and Steamfitters Union will be joining us to share some share and looking at some of the data that we've been digging through with that committee. I know that at the last IDA meeting, you had asked that I give an update on projects. If anyone saw it in the Ithaca Times, they did a really nice job of updating on all the projects about 6 weeks ago. If you have a few minutes here and you want me to report on, you know, IDA projects and where they are stalled, in construction, completed based on COVID, I'm happy to do that.
I think we're pretty short on time right now for Martha, but one thing I realized we didn't get was Tim Logue. We were going to appoint him to the Labor Committee. We didn't get to that, right?
Yes.
Could I get a motion on that, please, from somebody?
Sure.
Martha moves,
Yeah.
John seconds. Thank you. Mike,
Yes.
Martha,
Yes.
Jennifer. Yes. John,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
All right, and the chair votes yes. So good. Anything else, Heather? Oh, Martha, you had something?
Yeah, I do. So Heather, does this mean the city won't have any projects will go to the planning board or the BZA, whatever they have to, but there will not be any city review, common council review of projects?
Common Council did not review projects under the CTAP before. It was just that you had to meet those requirements that the IDA is going to now require, and it was a committee of the mayor, the director of planning, and the director of community and economic development would sign off and say, yes, you've met all 3 of the requirements or 4 of the requirements, and then they would send us a letter saying that they had met the requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other business to come before the IDA? Seeing none, do I motion to adjourn? And I will do that on a show of hands. Okay. Good. I see
My
enough
hand is up.
hands. Laura? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. And we will
Thanks,
see,
everybody.
if not before. Okay.
Thank you.